All right, guys. The Utah Jazz just snapped the San Antonio Spurs 16-game losing streak tonight. Let's talk about it. It's the Hoops Nerd postgame show. Guys, before we get started, let's talk about our sponsor, Prize Picks. If you haven't already, go to prizepicks.com, use promo code HoopsNerd. They will match up to $100 of your first bets. So you go in there, you use promo code HoopsNerd, you put down $5, they will give you $5. That doubles your money. Great money. You go bet the over on Lauri Markkanen, you probably win. The over on rebounds for Walker Kessler, probably going to do well. Although, with this season going on, you might want to start looking at the unders. Start watching the trends, because the unders might be happening with Lauri Markkanen based off of what we saw tonight. But anyways, it supports the channel. It supports me. I would appreciate it. Go to Prize Picks if you haven't already. Sign up and use promo code HoopsNerd. All right, the Utah Jazz lost to the San Antonio Spurs. Let's bring this up. Let's bring me down. This was pretty surprising, although I don't think it's that surprising. There's some things that we need to talk about, and we might need, I don't have a tinfoil hat, but I might put one on metaphorically. But let's talk about the San Antonio Spurs tonight. Keldon Johnson looked a lot better tonight. 25 points, 12 of 19 from the field. He was solid tonight. The three wasn't falling. Had it falling, this wouldn't have even been all that close, I guess, but 0 for 4 from 3. There are some signs of some things with this Spurs team. I really like Jeremy Sohan. We talked about it during the draft. Tonight, 13 points, 6 assists, 6 rebounds. He's going to be a nice connector piece when they get their star in this draft, and they're going to get a star. The Spurs are 100% tanking, and they are 100% going to get a nice player in the draft. Whether it's Wemby, whether it's Scoot, whether it's Brandon Miller, one of those guys is going to join the Spurs team. Now, they really need Wembanyama because this Spurs team is dreadful. When your best player is Jeremy Sohan, who will likely be a starting connecting player on a starting lineup, kind of like a not even sure who I would compare him to, like a Boris Diaw maybe type of player, then that's fine, but that's not great if that's your best player on the floor. Keldon Johnson, I guess Spurs fans, let me know who you think is the best player. Keldon Johnson likely is their best player, their most potent offensive player. And then Malachi Branham is pretty interesting. There's some things about him to like. But this Spurs team is really bad, and there's a reason why they lost 16 games in a row before tonight. But you know what? They've put themselves in the best position possible to get a chance to win the lottery and get Victor Wembanyama. And if they do that, it changes their franchise forever. And no one knows better how a franchise-altering player can change your franchise for 20 years. You get Tim Duncan, you win multiple titles. And that's what they did. I mean, it helped that they had the Admiral. They literally rested him for a year so they could get a shot at the 1 pick, and then they got it. And they got Tim Duncan. They know that it works. And so they're going after it with this draft. And if they win, man, it'll make them another 15-year contender, basically, because that's how good Victor Wembanyama is going to be. But anyways, that's basically all there is to really talk about with the Spurs. They're really bad. They're just really bad. There was one thought I had, and I tweeted about it. One of the things you want to look for in the draft is obviously elite skill, but combined with elite athleticism. Elite athleticism is always a premium. That is always something you want in your players. It's why Scoot Henderson is number 2. He's 6'2", 6'3", with just massive hands, huge, just imposing physical prowess. He's like 6'2", 6'3" at least, but he's just so built. He's built like an absolute like Barry Sanders on the football field. Just so strong and big hands. But then the athleticism is what takes him to another level. That ability to just explode, dunk the ball, dribble and penetrate past his man. And that's something that this Spurs team needs. It would be fun to watch Scoot on this Spurs team. Basically because one of the things this Spurs team is, they just don't have that type of athleticism on the floor. They don't have that type of absolute defense bending player. And that's what Scoot brings. He will bend that defense and get open shots for these other players. I don't know how many picks the the Spurs have in this draft. I know they have at least theirs. I don't remember the other pick. Let me know in the comments. But if they have another pick, it'd be nice if they could somehow find another shooter. Right now, what's his name? Vassell's not playing. Is he out injured? Or are they just tanking? Because Devin Vassell's really nice, but he's not playing, and they don't want him playing because he's pretty darn good. But anyways, you put a player like that with Scoot, and you find another guy. Maybe they can find some sort of trade for another elite player, and all of a sudden the Spurs are back. So interesting team in terms of just the fact that they are 100% going for the tank, and I respect it because you don't get free agents in San Antonio just like you don't in Utah. You at least franchise-altering free agents. And you get franchise-altering players in the draft. They know that, and that's what they're doing. All right, let's talk about the Utah Jazz. Right after I insert that ad, right? But anyways, this Utah Jazz team did not play well tonight, although part of that is because of the players on the floor. They started Talen Horton-Tucker at guard, who had a pretty solid game. I look at that, plus 14 for Horton-Tucker. He had some bad turnovers. Look at that, 7. I didn't even realize that. The eye test is real, but he had some brutal turnovers, 7 turnovers. So this is where he's got to develop and get better. But the shot's looking good. He hit that crazy 3 and then knocked down a big one in the corner. I liked that corner 3 from him just because it looks like he's one of those guys that if he can learn to just set his feet and knock it down when he's open, that's a big deal. That's something not a lot of players can do. Can you be a knockdown 3-point shooter when you're open? That changes your whole career. That gets you the big money. Because if you can be counted on to knock down big 3-point shots, then that changes everything for a team. And if Horton-Tucker can do that, if he can play off the ball, knock down a corner 3 here and there, or an open 3-point shot, it changes everything about what he can. Because we know that he can penetrate, like we just talked about. I mean, Talen Horton-Tucker would start for the Spurs easy and actually help them win some games because he can penetrate the defense. He can pass it out. This is where he's got to get better, though, is the turnovers. Lauri Markkanen had a tough shooting night from the field, but still 28 points, 10 rebounds, 1 assist. So this is a bad night for Markkanen, 28 points. That's how good Lauri Markkanen is and how good he's becoming, and it's why he's an all-NBA player. I mean, there is just no one around him besides like Walker Kessler. Ochai Agbaji actually had a nice night. Man, that goose egg on his skin looked bad. Did you guys see that? That was definitely, when they say lower leg contusion, that was a contusion. Really bad. So I hope he's okay, but that looks like a bone bruise. He might be out for, I mean, there was one time, so when I was in Argentina on a mission, I was playing soccer, and I was running down the field, and one guy cheap shotted me. He was one of my buddies. He thought it would be funny. He put his knee into my thigh, and I flipped over his leg, and I got a bone bruise on my femur or whatever. That thing hurt for months. So I don't know Ochai Agbaji is obviously much more athletic, much more physically powerful, stronger, athletic than me. Also much more attractive. I don't know how that's related, but I just thought I'd put that in there. He will probably be okay, but probably we're looking at, 2 weeks? Maybe? At least? I don't know. It's too bad. But as far as tanking, it will help because honestly, Ochai Agbaji tonight showed me some fun things. 3 for 8 from the field, 3 for 7. The 2-point shot wasn't really falling, but I loved what I saw. He was penetrating with the ball. One of these 3-point shots was he dribbled up, pulled up from the top of the 3-point line, knocked it down. That type of shooting is a big deal. That actually that gave me a little bit of chills because if he can turn into a rhythm shooter like that, that changes everything about Ochai Agbaji. Because up until now, I guess not tonight. I wonder if he's done that. Maybe he's been doing that and we just are starting to notice it more. But for the most part, what we've seen from Ochai Agbaji is he's a player that defends because he's athletic and long. Although I think he still has some work to do to get better as a one-on-one defender, but his athleticism and length and size really helps him out. And having athletes on the floor helps you on the defensive end, 100%. Athletes who try will always do well on the basketball floor. But on offense, he's basically been a cutter and then just a catch-and-shoot 3-point shooter. That's basically it. And he's been good at that. I mean, his corner 3 is like 60% or something like that. Pretty wild. But if he can be a guy that can do more than just catch and shoot, can he catch the ball, dribble 1 step, and then shoot? Can he run off a screen, pull up, and shoot? I mean, can you be a legitimate pull-up 3-point shooter? That changes everything. Then you're like Malik Beasley. And if you're Malik Beasley with Ochai Agbaji's size and athleticism on the defensive end, that's a nice player. That's a really nice player. So something to be happy about. He's a little older, so I don't know how the upside is. I guess you don't put a lid on it, but I don't know if there's a huge upside there. But if he can become a rhythm shooter and play defense and just gets better at all elements of the game, he's a nice player for years to come for the Jazz, for sure. I mentioned Lauri Markkanen. He's all NBA. It's unbelievable. 28 points. Just fantastic. Kelly Olynyk tonight struggled. I think he is injured, although he took 12 free throws. 12 free throws. That means, but 8 points, 10 rebounds, 1 assist. I do just love Kelly Olynyk's fight. No matter what, he's going to go out there and play hard, and he's part of this culture. And that's one thing you want. This Jazz team is probably going to lose a lot of games tonight, the rest of the season. But having someone like Olynyk that plays hard no matter what is great. Is great. It's just great for morale. It's great for culture. It's fantastic. Walker Kessler, 10 points, 15 rebounds. Holy smokes. Bet the over on the rebounds with him every time because it will get you a little bit of extra cash in your pocket. But anyways, 15 rebounds, 10 points. He is such an animal. 6 offensive rebounds. I mean, he's such a monster on both ends of the floor in terms of just his hands, his presence. He just puts so much pressure on the defense. His hands are so good. And then 2 assists, 2 blocks. I mean, just pretty vintage Walker Kessler night. When he's it's just incredible. He's a rookie. And he's not going to win Rookie of the Year, but I think he should be in consideration for number 2. It's basically like him and Jalen Williams. Is it Jalen Williams on the OKC? For sure. I mean, it's crazy. Like, Chet Holmgren is going to be fun to watch next year. I'm excited to watch Chet. It's too bad he got injured, and I think he probably would have been like the number 2 because I think he would have got some really nice run for OKC and would have been a fun player. But I don't think Walker Kessler's all that much different than Chet. Really, like the big difference between those two is the fact that Chet can shoot. Can Walker Kessler, who is 100% from the 3-point line, by the way, but can he actually start taking some of those threes? I noticed multiple times tonight the Spurs were laying off of him completely, absolutely dropping. And so there is an element there where if Kessler can shoot the ball, then that changes things a lot. Can he be a corner 3-point shooter? Then all of a sudden, Will Hardy can run a 5-out offense, and there's no limitations to what they can do. For now, there is a few limitations, but he's put such pressure on the rim that it helps offensively so very much. He brings everything Rudy Gobert did on offense in terms of efficiency, pressure on the rim. He's just better at it. And he's a better offensive player in every way with better hands. So the offensive impact is better, 100% better. And we see that in the Jazz's offensive rating this year. And the defensive rating with Kessler is better. I don't know where it is. I'm not up tonight, but he has impacted the defense in a big way. And I saw a stat, I can't remember who it was that shared it, but the rim protection numbers of Walker Kessler and surprisingly Lauri Markkanen, really solid. And so if you get another player in this draft that can help on those weak side blocks with Walker Kessler, all of a sudden the Jazz defense gets really interesting. And yeah, if you can get someone like Ochai Agbaji up to speed, if you get a player, the Jazz are going to get 2 lottery picks in this draft. The Wolves are not making the playoffs this year. Book it. Absolutely book it. I was annoyed because I think did they win? I was watching before Dang it. Minnesota won tonight. But anyways, they're not going to make the playoffs. It's just their schedule's, I think, literally one of the hardest in the league. So maybe they will. But it's very unlikely. They have such a tough schedule. And they really struggle to score. And I don't know. But anyways, either way, the Jazz are going to get at least 1 lottery pick, probably 2. And if they can come out with 2 elite athletic players that can shoot and defend, my goodness, this Jazz team gets really interesting. And they have 3 picks in this draft. One thing I'd love to do if I'm the Jazz, is they get their pick rate 27 with Philadelphia. Basically, it's going to be whatever Philadelphia, because they get the worst of Philadelphia, Brooklyn, and I can't remember the third. But basically, because Philadelphia is the best team, however, wherever they fall is where they get it. But, if they can get some sort of athlete here, that's what I would want. I haven't watched a lot of these guys. Get an athlete. Get me athletes. Elite athletes. And you teach them the skill sets that are keeping them from jumping up in the draft, I just want athletes. How many of these guys, like, look at their steal rate. 4.5 blocks, steal rate. Look at this. Marcus Sasser, right there. Makes me want to look at him. 2 steals per game. I want to just, what are these Terquavion Smith, by the way, there's some people that really like him. GG Jackson. I was listening to, this is me just ranting, or just, I'm going off. Hopefully you like this, but anyway, I listened to a whole thing with, Raphael. There's some people that just love GG Jackson. I don't think he's going to go 21, go higher. Sensabaugh at 13 for the Jazz right there. Look at that. And Chris Murray, some people really like him. I believe his brother is Keegan. Isn't it Keegan at not quite the same player. This would be depressing. You know what? I wouldn't get him. I would take Terquavion. I don't know. This is fun. I love the draft, by the way. The draft is so much fun. All right. Well, anyways, there's not much else to say. I mean, oh, we're going to put on our tinfoil hat. The Jazz are tanking. It's not a question now. The Jazz are tanking. Yesterday or the day before, we saw the news about LeBron, and LeBron is going to miss probably 2 to 4 weeks or something like that, depending on, because they're going to relook at him in 2 weeks with his injury and reevaluate from there, which likely means he's going to be injured for 2 to 4 weeks. Danny was like, all right, play Johnny Juzang. That's what they did tonight. Immediately, Jordan Clarkson doesn't even play tonight because of a hand bruise or something. You know, Colin Sexton has some sort of hamstring thing. They are not going to play him until maybe the rest of the season. There's just no point. I mean, this Jazz team it's obvious what they're doing. They put in Johnny Juzang. Udoka Azubuike is getting minutes. Juan Toscano Anderson is getting minutes. I mean, honestly, the fact that they didn't play Frank Jackson or Damian Jones makes my tinfoil hat just absolutely vibrate. Damian Jones is just a better player than Udoka Azubuike. We saw it. When he was on the floor, he was flat out better. The Jazz won those minutes when Damian Jones was on the floor. Like, honestly, I hope they keep Damian Jones next year because he's just a better player than Doak. Like, next offseason, I would just cut Doak, and I would just throw a minimum at Damian Jones and keep him on the team because he's just a better player. Frank Jackson is having a great G League season, can absolutely light it up. He is better than Juan Toscano Anderson. Juan Toscano Anderson did a great job for the Jazz tank tonight. 0 for 3 from the field. Let's all give a shout out to Juan Toscano Anderson. All of you watching, 0 for 3 from the field, 0 for 1 from 3. He did have 1 rebound and 1 foul. So he got 1 rebound and 1 foul in 7 minutes. Thank you to Juan Toscano Anderson. Udoka Azubuike, a -6. Let's just give a shout out to Johnny Juzang, who was a -21, along with Chris Dunn, who was, ooh, look at that, -24. Ooh, man. 25 minutes for Chris Dunn, a -24. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's unfair. But anyways, 11 points. I did like Chris Dunn. By the way, Chris Dunn's played pretty well for the Jazz. Honestly, he kept the Jazz in this game. This is right here kind of wild because I felt like he was actually, just from the eye test, one of the better players on the floor. So don't trust plus minus always. Rudy Gay was a -14. He helped out with the tank, 1 for 7, 0 for 2. He did have 8 rebounds, though. I don't know. And that second unit for the Jazz was, at one point tonight, they were playing Chris Dunn, Rudy Gay, Udoka Azubuike, Johnny Juzang, and Juan Toscano Anderson. And there are people that don't think the Jazz are tanking. Okay. One thing there are some things I have heard, not good sources, so whatever. But all I can really go off of is what I see. And what I saw tonight was a second unit at one point of Chris Dunn, Rudy Gay, Simone Fontecchio, I can't remember who, Udoka Azubuike, Johnny Juzang, and Juan Toscano Anderson. And there are people that think the Jazz don't want to lose games. There are people out there that think the Jazz actually are trying to make the playoffs. If you are one of those people, I love you. I love you a lot. I wish you so well. But that I'm trying to tell you guys, we have a rule on this channel. We have a rule that we tell the truth and we are honest. And what the Jazz are doing is trying to lose games. They did not want to win last game against the Spurs. I can tell you right now, Danny was probably not very happy that they won that game. And they really were not interested in winning this game tonight. And there were even some things watching on the floor. No challenges at the end of the game. This was a close game at the end. There was no timeouts. I don't know. I think this Jazz team understands that if they want to win a title and the title is the goal, we're not trying to be the Kings, guys. By the way. And who was I talking to? I think it was with some of my SLC Dunk buddies. By the way, go to SLC Dunk and read every single day. It's the best website out there, the best coverage, the best opinion, always right. Always right. But anyways, like, at what point did some of the fan base want to become the Sacramento Kings, where you're just happy to make the playoffs? The Jazz make the playoffs every year. Make the playoffs every year. One thing the Jazz are is an elite franchise at making the playoffs. Just one of the best at just being consistently good. Right? Always good. Always solid. Always, well run, well coached, play hard. Usually draft well, except for the last years of Dennis Lindsay, but usually draft pretty solid. Haven't gotten an MVP since Karl Malone, but we have hits on a lot of players. They traded up for Darren Williams. They hit on Andre Kirilenko. They hit on Donovan Mitchell. Hit on Rudy Gobert. Didn't get an MVP, but hit on some really nice all-star caliber players. But when was it that we were just okay with just being the Kings? Is that really all we want to be? Really? Just want to be in the playoffs and just not lose a lot of games? You just want to be a team that wins and you never, I guess I don't understand that. I would like to win a title. Danny Ainge wants to win a title. Winning a title is the goal, right? Isn't that the goal? Like, what's the goal? Is it just to make the playoffs and just never feel sad? It's nice to make the playoffs. It's nice to win more than lose. But for me, to be honest, the never having a chance at the title, that's depressing. Feels like fool's gold to me. I would like to win a title. Danny wants to win a title. I promise you right now. Danny wants to win a title. Danny wants to win a title. How many times do I have to say this? Danny doesn't care about being plucky, nice little story. Danny wants to win a title. Danny wants to win a title. I don't know how many times we have to say this. I don't know how many times we have to reiterate it on SLC Dunk, but that's the goal. And in Utah, you do not get superstar players in any other way than by trade or by draft. This might be the first time we've gotten a superstar player by trade, to be honest, actually, in right before their prime in Lauri Markkanen. I'm trying to think, is there like another example? Because I believe Carlos Boozer came over in free agency. All-star player. Darren Williams was a draft pick. This is likely the greatest trade in Utah Jazz history. Trading Donovan Mitchell for Lauri Markkanen. So right there, that is like getting a superstar. He's a top 15 player. He's ridiculously good, and he can get better. I mean, he was doing Giannis things tonight, honestly. That dunk he did in transition was Giannis stuff. But even Giannis needs star players around him. Giannis needed Drew Holiday. That's why they threw all those picks and things at the Pelicans for Drew. And they needed Chris Middleton. The Bucks don't win the title without Chris Middleton knocking down massive shots against the Suns, right? They would have won it last year, but Chris Middleton was hurt. So even Giannis, who's the best player in the world, better than Jokic, by the way, he is much better than Jokic, and he deserves to be the MVP over Jokic. Anyway, that's another story. But you can't just have Markkanen and just like go for it next year, unless you get someone in this draft. You have to get someone to pair with him. Otherwise, it's not good enough. And Danny wants to win a title. Should have named this video, Danny wants to win a title. That's what he cares about. That's it. That's it. That's the goal. You want a banner. We don't have a banner in Vivint Delta Center. We don't have one. That's what we want. I don't want to be the Kings. I don't want to be just happy making the playoffs every year. That's not good enough for me anymore. I've been writing about that for years. We did that last year. We did that for the last 3 years. They were the most depressing years ever because everyone knew we weren't good enough. And there are some people that talk about that second season with Conley and how that was our shot. And maybe, I think it was a low likelihood, but maybe if the Jazz stayed completely healthy, if Mike Conley doesn't get hurt, if Donovan Mitchell doesn't turn his ankle, then they had a shot for sure. I just don't know if they were good enough to win against like Giannis, you know? But you need that superstar player. You don't get it in Utah by anything but trade, but more likely draft. This is like, I might do a video on that, but Lauri Markkanen might be the best trade in Jazz history. That's crazy. I haven't even thought about that, but I think that's actually true. Right? I mean, we're talking about the Rudy Gobert trade, so we got to wait and see what we get in terms of picks from that. So jury's out. But in terms of just like straight up player, Lauri Markkanen is the best trade we've ever done. That's actually crazy to think about. Think about this. The Jazz trade Donovan Mitchell to the Cavs for Lauri Markkanen. Lauri Markkanen was an all-star starter this year. Donovan Mitchell was not an all-star starter, and he was not going to be an all-star starter for the Jazz if he was still on the Jazz. Unless they traded Rudy and Donovan decided he wanted to stay, which he did not want to, by the way. He was not going to stay in Utah. We talked about that. Anyways, so they traded for a better player. It's crazy to think about, but you can look at the comparison. I think the Jazz have maybe arguably a better player in Lauri Markkanen. Interestingly enough, Lauri Markkanen drafted the same draft as Donovan Mitchell. They're at the same points in their career. Pretty wild. And I think it's safe to say the Jazz have a real shot at making sure Lauri Markkanen retires here. Isn't that crazy? And he's 7 foot. He's 7 foot and can play the three. See. And we're looking at it's just wild. He's stayed healthy all year, by the way. One of the things he struggled with was injuries, and he's been healthy all season. Pretty remarkable, pretty amazing development that the Jazz have been able to keep him healthy. He has played at such an elite level. It's honestly not talked about enough in NBA circles. Luckily, we talked about it here. But the Lauri Markkanen story is unbelievable. The fact that the Jazz got him for Donovan, plus they'll get the 3 picks, and I think there's a swap or 2 in there as well. I think 1. And then with the Wolves, the Jazz get 4 first-round picks. Only one of them is like top 3 to 5 protected. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So we'll see what we get for the Wolves. If the Wolves won tonight, so that sucks. But the jury's out, and that Wolves team is just it is a brutal future for that team. Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns. I don't know what that team is going to do, but man, oh man, it's pretty wild to think about what that Wolves team. Pretty great. But anyways, that's all we got tonight. It's now that time us to see. Let's see. So this is amazing, by the way. It up Basketball Reference. Pretty remarkable. So with that loss, the Jazz jumped from 16 to 13, baby. That means we've got a lottery pick to see if we win the lottery. And with that, the Jazz jumped from a 3.4 to 3.8 to get top 4. But guess what? I still think the New Orleans Pelicans are going to try the win. They have no reason not to because they keep winning. They're going to get the Lakers. They have a swap with the Lakers. So it does no good for them to lose. Unless they really want to bottom out. But I just don't think that's going to happen. Washington's trying to win. Portland is trying to win. Dame is scoring 71. The Lakers are trying to win. Even without LeBron, they're going to try. They're going to try. Oklahoma City seems like they're blatantly tanking. It pisses me off. I think the Chicago Bulls are going to keep trying to win. I don't know. Indiana won tonight. They've won 2 in a row. So anyone who says the Jazz can't still do this, that's why that Indiana win and that Oklahoma City wins. The Jazz would be 29 and 30. They'd be 29 and 34. They'd be at like right here. Oh, it's brutal. So brutal. So every loss matters. This was a big time loss for the Jazz. Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. How's that for you guys sound-wise? Is that crazy loud? I think it's okay. I don't know if we have any members in the chat tonight. All right. Let's see here. So, if the lottery was tonight, what would the Jazz be getting? Oh, San Antonio gets Wembanyama. There we go. TGD is joining us. Man, it feels like my music is so loud. Can you guys hear me? TGD, how can you hear me? Can you hear me pretty well, or is it crazy? I feel like it's way loud. How's that? Oh, is it good? Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. Like, there's a delay here, so I'm trying to talk to TGD here. This is how it goes when it's live. Anyways, this was a massive loss for the Jazz. Absolutely incredible. The Jazz have to get another guy in this draft. Okay, cool. Good to know. All right, well, let's give a shout out to our All-Stars tonight. Let's give a shout out to Ezekiel Raicibe, the man from down under. See ya, Lex Slater, Built Ford Tough, Alexander Tufts, Jorge Arrizaga, mi amigo de Bajo, Baby Elliott Matson, Jordan the Goat Besserell, Just Buckets JB, Zap Watts, TGD Total Game Domination, Christian House Money to Haas, Tyson Price, The Price is Right, X marks the spot for Zintas, Austin R. Grant, Editor Extraordinaire, PW the CB, Darren Williams to Carlos Boozer, Patrick Kukubo the Connoisseur, and Robert Hall of Fame. Thank you, TGD. I appreciate it. Guys, if you haven't already, like and subscribe to the channel. I really would love to grow this channel more. I've got to do more videos. I've consolidated it back to the one. I've got another 8-bit video I'm working on. Hopefully get that done here soon. And I'm going to just start doing more NBA stuff along with the Jazz Lives. That's what the channel is, and it's going to be fun. If you haven't already, go to Prize Picks and use promo code HoopsNerd to get your free money. Go get your free money, guys. I'm giving you free money. Go do it. They'll match up to $100. Guys, like and subscribe. You're amazing. I will talk to you next time.